We all know the feeling of coming across something we can't explain, whether it's a fact we've just read in a book or something that happened in front of our very eyes. We like to imagine that the feeling occurs less often to scientists than to the rest of us, but it doesn't. Everything you're about to see in this video has come as a shock to scientists. The paintings on the walls of Sego Canyon in Thompson Springs, Utah, USA, are thousands of years old. They're the faded legacy of a mysterious ancient Native American race that lived here during a time we know next to nothing about. The paintings have been here for such a long time that they've begun to fade, leaving them looking almost like ghostly apparitions on the rock. It's thought that the work was carried out by a combination of the archaic Fremont and Utes people over a period that continued for countless centuries. It was the Utes people that gave the state of Utah its name. In some of their artwork, there's a clue to the date of its origin. The paintings feature horses, so they must have been made after 1493. There were no horses at all in North or South America until Christopher Columbus brought them on his second voyage to the Americas that year. The art of the Utes is the most recent on the walls, but also the most crudely rendered. The oldest is attributed to the archaic people, is presented in the Barrier Canyon style, and might be 9,000 years old. When Spanish invaders came to conquer vast swaths of South America during the 16th century, the Chachapoya were already gone. The Inca had defeated them after a long and spirited resistance, and most of the traces of their culture were lost with them. Almost nothing about them at all was known until 1928, when a 7-foot-tall statue fell off the side of a cliff in the Utcubamba Valley. The statue split open when it landed, revealing a sarcophagus that still contained a carefully wrapped mummy. That prompted an archaeological scramble, revealing the presence of 7 more similar statues hidden on the side of the cliff. They're known as Puranmachu and are thought to be the traditional burial custom of the Chachapoya. This habit of burying their dead in high places ties in with their nickname, the Cloud Warriors. It's thought that most Puranmachu had already been found and destroyed by looters by the time of that lucky discovery in 1928, but a few more examples have been found in the Peruvian mountains since then. As burial traditions go, this has to be counted as one of the world's most unique. Let's jump forward in time and shift our attention to Europe. It's May 12, 1897, and Dutch peat cutters are dredging peat from a bog near the village of Ede in the Netherlands. Suddenly, they stumble upon a body with fire-red hair and are so horrified, they think they've seen the devil. They hide the body under peat stacks, only for the local mayor to discover it 9 days later. Meet the Ede Girl, a remarkably preserved body found in a peat bog, now displayed at the Drents Museum in Assen. She wore a woolen cape and had a noose wrapped around her neck 3 times, suggesting she may have been a victim of human sacrifice. A stab wound near her collarbone and a CT scan revealing she was about 16 and suffered from scoliosis add layers to her mysterious story. Carbon-14 dating places her death in the 1st century. Her body was well preserved thanks to the tannic acid in the marsh water, although the peat cutter's tools and villagers did some damage. In 1992, Richard Neve of Manchester University reconstructed her face using criminal pathology techniques, making her internationally famous. An amateur investigator, Scott C. Waring, claims to have discovered what appears to be an alien spaceship off the coast of Greenland using Google Earth. Waring, known for his extraterrestrial investigations on YouTube, suggests that the object, which he describes as an ancient alien ship, has been revealed due to melting ice sheets. The triangular-shaped object, allegedly frozen into an iceberg, measures about 223 feet wide. Waring's theory is that this UFO might have crashed into Earth millions of years ago and was subsequently buried beneath a glacier. Over time, as the glacier melted, fragments of the craft were supposedly released into the ocean. Waring's discovery has sparked mixed reactions online. Some viewers of his YouTube channel, ET Database, are intrigued and call for further investigation, while others are skeptical, questioning the likelihood of such a find being overlooked by governments or local residents. In the past, Waring has made several claims about objects he believes to be alien crafts or technology. His recent video of a UFO changing shape in the night sky over Calgary, Canada, was met with similar skepticism, with some viewers suggesting it could simply be a flare. These claims, while unverified, continue to fuel discussions and debates among those interested in extraterrestrial life and unidentified flying objects. You either believe in the ancient astronaut hypothesis or you don't. Either you find the thought of people from outer space or the future visiting our ancient ancestors thousands of years ago fascinating, or you think it's absurd. If you're inclined to believe in it, though, you'll undoubtedly refer to evidence such as the Tassili in Ager cave art in Algeria's part of the Sahara Desert. The drawings are extraordinarily intricate, undeniably ancient, and appear to depict humanoid entities dressed in suits, gloves, and helmets similar to those used by astronauts today. The paintings date back at least 10,000 years, but they could be as old as 15,000. Everything else on the walls of the caverns, from animals to mountains and rivers, appears to have been inspired by things the artists would have seen in their daily lives. Where did they acquire the idea for these astronaut figures if all they painted were the sights around them? Whether you believe they are evidence of alien visitation to Earth in the past or not, you have to admit that they are amazing, perplexing works of cave art. There are so many myths and legends about the origins of Arthur's Stone in Herefordshire, England, that it's hard to know where to start. The most fantastical of them is that King Arthur slew a giant here, and the giant left his elbow prints on the stones as he fell. That obviously isn't true, but historians have never been able to say for sure why the ancient inhabitants of the area decided to arrange this collection of quartz conglomerate rocks here around 5,700 years ago. We might know more if experts were allowed to conduct a full excavation of the site, but the level of protection given to the stones prevents that from happening. In August 2021, archaeologists conducted a dig as close to the southernmost point of the monument as they were allowed, and found something unexpected. There are 3 other stone monuments buried here, along with burial mounds created 6,000 years ago. It seems that Arthur's Stone was once part of an even larger network of stone monuments and was likely an important ceremonial center. There even appears to have been a large timber building here that was burned down deliberately, so now archaeologists have a new mystery to solve. Gungiwamp in Groton, Connecticut, USA is the type of place that gives archaeologists and historians a headache. The settlement has been used and reused by a variety of settlers for at least 1,400 years, all of whom left their own mark on the landscape. There are stone chambers, stone rings, etchings on the walls that don't correspond to any known language, and Native American artifacts. There are so many traces of human occupation at Gungiwamp that it's impossible to say where one era of its use ended and the other began, or even who was there first. One popular theory is that it was built in the 6th century by Celtic Christian monks who'd run away from Ireland to escape Viking raids, but that would rewrite the accepted history of pre-Columbian America, and also disregard several pieces of evidence that suggest the site is far older. Occasional spikes in electromagnetic activity have been detected at Gungiwamp, which scientists put down to the composition of magnetite, granite, and quartz rocks. But conspiracy theorists put down to the idea that it's either an alien base or an energy vortex. One lithic stone tool found buried here is at least 3,500 years old, which blows a hole in the Celtic monk theory. We don't know whether it was built in stages or all at once, and frustratingly, we probably never will. There may be no mystery in Egypt bigger than the Serapeum of Saqqara. That's the name given to a collection of 24 jet black 100-ton granite boxes hidden on a hillside to the south of Giza's Great Pyramid. The gargantuan sarcophagi appear to have been interred in their current position somewhere around 3,300 years ago, during a time when the legendary pharaoh Ramses II was on Egypt's throne. Some of the boxes have been opened and found to contain the remains of Apis bulls. Bulls were sacred to the ancient Egyptians, but they wouldn't usually be buried with such honors. One of the most controversial theories about their design and purpose is that they were used for fermentation, which would have generated sufficient stress within the sarcophagi to create a luminous glow inside the dark tunnels. In other words, they might have been a primitive but astonishing form of lighting. The majority of Egyptologists reject this idea out of hand, but they don't have any better explanations of their own. If the ancient Egyptians were capable of creating a lighting system from the gases of decaying bulls, they were even more astonishing than we already imagined them to be. There's no reliable photographic or written evidence that human beings have ever encountered aliens, and yet we all have an idea of what aliens might look like. They're small gray creatures with big black eyes and elongated skulls. If we ever saw such a creature's skull, it would probably look exactly like these strange skulls found in Peru. Looking at them, it's no wonder that many conspiracy theorists claim that they're alien skulls. But could there be another reason for their bizarre appearance? The so-called Paracas skulls are genuine artifacts, so they once belonged to living creatures, and they weren't made by fraudsters. When photos of them appeared on the internet in 2014, it was said that the skulls contained non-human DNA, but no evidence of that claim has ever been provided. Instead, it's more likely that the 2,000-year-old skulls belonged to humans from remote Andean villages, where the heads of babies would be wrapped in rope and wood that encouraged the bones to grow into this unusual shape so that they would more closely resemble the deities these remote tribes believed in at the time. The Giant's Causeway is the most celebrated natural feature in Northern Ireland. You'll find it on the coast of County Antrim. The thousands of hexagonal stone columns that rise out of the ground here look like stepping stones for giants, which is where the area got its name from. To find the real reason for the strange appearance of these stones, we have to go back more than 50 million years to the Paleogene era, a time of enormous volcanic activity in this part of the world. Molten basalt ran into chalk beds, forming a plateau made of lava. As the lava cooled, the plateau cracked and broke apart, making these shapes as it did so. The columns vary drastically in height, but the largest is almost 40 feet tall. The rich myths and legends of Northern Ireland say that the causeway was made by a giant called Fionn mac Cumhail, who built the causeway as a bridge to Scotland so he could fight and defeat rival giant Benandonner. It's a fantastic, colorful legend. Lava formations like this are very rare, but there are other examples elsewhere in the world. The most famous is probably the Devil's Postpile in California, USA. Our penultimate incredible artifact can be looked at and interpreted in one of two ways. The first is as the skull of an extraterrestrial being. The second is as the skull of a human child who passed away long ago because of congenital hydrocephalus. The latter explanation sounds more plausible, but the problem is that it doesn't resemble the skull of any other known congenital hydrocephalus patient. This is the Star Child skull, and it's said to have been found during the 1930s at the entrance to a mine tunnel in Chihuahua, Mexico. It's abnormally large, with a wide back and huge, shallow eye sockets. American author and paranormal researcher Lloyd Pye claims the skull resembles the size and shape of the typical gray alien that's so often described in UFO abduction reports. And he has a point. However, scientists say that the skull was tested in Vancouver in 1999 and found to contain traces of X and Y chromosomes, proving beyond all reasonable doubt that the owner of the skull was human. Those who believe in the alien origin theory say that it's impossible to obtain enough strands of DNA or genetic material from the skull to reach that conclusion, and so the matter remains open for debate. If you have a mysterious stone structure that you're finding hard to explain, we guess Mystery Hill makes an excellent name for it. This complex is sometimes called America's Stonehenge and can be found in Salem, New Hampshire, USA. Mystery Hill is around 4,000 years old and is made up of a series of underground chambers, some of which seem to be aligned with stars. It was likely made by early Native Americans, although it's impossible to say for sure. There are some fringe theorists who believe that the structures here were created by the ancient Celts. It's impossible to deny that there are similarities between these chambers and the ones that are known to have been created by the Celts across Europe. But there's an obvious problem here. If the chambers on Mystery Hill were made by the Celts, it would necessitate the presence of Celts in North America 4,000 years ago. Most scientists and historians have now accepted the fact that Christopher Columbus wasn't the first European to set foot on the continent, but convincing them that the Celts got to America 4,000 years ago might be a bridge too far.
Subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and enjoy watching new videos on my channel. Thanks for watching, and see you soon!